Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for those in different time zones. Thank you for joining. We're going to be waiting for a couple more people to join, and then we'll be kicking off this webinar. Hi, everyone. Okay. Good. So I hope everyone can see my slides and hear me well. We're going to be starting soon this webinar. So thank you, everyone. Hello to Greece. I think we're all over the world here. Okay, perfect. So we have 45 minutes ahead of us to discuss this hot topic of CBAM compliance. So I wish to welcome everyone here on today's webinar. We're thrilled to have you join us as we explore one of the most, I would say, pressing regulatory changes affecting international trade, the carbon border adjustment mechanism that I'm going to just shorten into CBAM as of now. As many of you know, CBAM is reshaping the way companies handle emission reporting and carbon costs, especially for businesses importing goods into the European Union. So here, I think we have a lot of European fellows companies, but as well, we'll see that CBAM is definitely having a broader, wider impact across its border, if we can say we have borders. Because we have here a Swiss company, so it's really right in the center of European Union. Today we'll not only break down how CBAM works and the financial implications for your business, but we'll also dive into a real-world case study to see how companies are already tackling compliance effectively. So for that, I have the honor to host Miroslav Novotny, Project and Sustainability Manager at Econia Group.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining, Miroslav. And on my end, so my name is Noémie Billion. I am an account executive and US business development leader for Greenly. So really happy to be joining today. And I've been doing the offer development for CBAM. So I've been coming across a lot of our suppliers and EU declarants situations that we're happy to share today. Today's agenda is pretty simple, straightforward. We're going to be presenting a bit about Greenly and Econia first. Then we'd like to explore why CBAM matters to you, to your specific situation. And I'm going to be touching a bit on the Greenly CBAM solution to streamline reporting. And we'll be wrapping up with some final thoughts in conclusion. To start with, we're really in this situation of sustainability and carbon tracking becoming mainstream and universal, and this forever kind of evolving regulatory landscape. I've cited here some of them. I'm sure a lot of you know about the CSRD, but CBAM is definitely having kind of a similar impact in terms of number of companies that are impacted. And as I'm based in New York and working in the US, I could here select some of the regulation that hopefully will stay in the coming years. we're really crossing our fingers here. So California can be a leading state. So our departing statement is really to say that only 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions are tracked and managed today. And as long as a company can switch on the light and really have a look at the emissions that are into their scopes, it's going to really help us reduce, because we think we can reduce what we don't manage. So at Greenly, our mission is to help companies simplify and streamline carbon accounting, making sustainability reporting more accessible and most efficiently and more actionable. So with CBAM, the challenge isn't just about understanding the regulation, it's about integrating compliance into your existing operations and making it a performance and really a success key to your operations, without any excessive manual effort or administrative burden. So we really designed a software that is making this evolution from siloed climate initiatives with data scattered around all departments into a unified climate strategy platform that can centralize and reward your company for your carbon initiatives. So this way, we developed a full range of ESG services, but just here it's a quick introduction to really Econia, the center of this webinar, because one of the companies we're working with on CBAM compliance as well as their carbon accounting is Econia, which is a key player in interior architecture, design, and retail. So I let Miroslav give us some word about Econia.
Thank you, Noemi. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to share some insights from our side. So before we go deeper in the discussion, I just shortly introduce the company. Econia is the leader of the visual merchandising and retail architecture. We are a specialist in luxury displays, packaging, and interior products, not only in production, but also in designing, engineering, and every kind of service you actually can imagine. We work with some of the world's leading brands, particularly in the watch and jewelry industry. Therefore, the sustainability topic is a priority, bigger and bigger every year. Given our international presence and deep supply chain, CBAM is an important topic, especially the last 1 year. So I am happy to dive deeper with Noemi and give you some key points.
Thank you, Miroslav. So without further ado, let's dive in the CBAM topics and why it matters to you, Miroslav, and to the one that joined us today for this webinar. So the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism is a landmark regulation, the world's first carbon tax applied to imported goods. So the first point I wanted to make is that the timeline is ambitious and it underscores the urgency for businesses to act. I would say really immediately. The urgency is really there. First point is that CBAM is already in motion. In 2005, the EU ETS, so emission trading system, was launched, setting annual carbon caps. And then in 2023, the CBAM officially came into force. So it targeted emission-intensive goods like iron, steel, aluminum, electricity, fertilizer, hydrogen, and cement. So all these carbon-intensive goods imported to Europe that from non-European countries are targeted. Key milestone ahead. Q1 2025 is really an important and key moment in the CBAM implementation timeline, because CBAM reporting becomes stricter. It now requires to use the EU-specific methods that is limiting estimations to 20% of declared values. We'll see a bit after how we can get there. what's happening if your supplier is giving you estimations. So all those concerns, we're going to be tackling them in this webinar. In 2026, the transition period ends. So it's where penalties are starting. Penalties already started, actually, in reality. But now penalties will start really in 2026 with penalties up to €100 per missing CBAM certificate. So certificates are kind of right to pollute that a company needs to buy for its imported emissions. And random audits will be enforced as well with compliance. In 2026, importers will need to engage their suppliers, secure third-party validation, and begin mandatory payments as free allowances are gradually eliminated. So more and more carbon emissions will be covered and will need to be covered by certificates. The full implementation is expected to be by 2030 to 2034. So CBAM will expand to all EU ETS final goods, which is a bit concerning, with the phased removal of free allocation running parallel to CBAM's broader application. So this timeline is ambitious, and it's really embodying why it should matter to you, because delaying action risks non-compliance, heavy penalties, and increased import costs. So proactive business, on the other hand, will be avoiding fines and audits, strengthen supplier relationships to ensure compliance, and build resilience and gain competitive edge on sustainability leaders, which we have one today with us. So it's great to have this example. So to understand this mechanism, I wanted to break down the roles and responsibilities of key players along the supply chain. So if you take just like an example of a supply chain of steel, for example, from suppliers outside the European Union to the final CBAM declarants. So we can see here the complexity of the players that are involved in this process. So it all starts with the supplier, which is typically a non-European producer or of carbon-intensive goods, or themselves are buying carbon-intensive goods and exporting them to Europe. Their role in CBAM compliance includes collecting emissions data from their own suppliers, precursors. When I say emissions data, you can think about specific embedded emissions, which are scope 1 and 2 emissions of the goods that you're producing. Second one is calculating carbon footprints at the installation level for goods that you are producing in your own facility, and then communicating emission data to the next player in the chain. So either an intermediary or directly the EU importer. This means that suppliers will need to engage in more rigorous carbon accounting and improve transparency in their emission reporting. So in some cases, an intermediary sits between the supplier and the EU importer. This could be a trader, a wholesaler, or logistic provider that aggregates and exports CBAM goods into the European Union. So their key duties under CBAM include engaging suppliers to collect accurate carbon emissions data, because we've seen that estimation will be no longer accepted, ensuring emissions data flows smoothly through the supply chain down to the EU importer. The importer and declarants is the entity that brings CBAM goods into the European markets. This is where the financial responsibility for CBAM compliance ultimately lies. So the one who pays the bill at the end. Importer must collect and verify carbon footprint data of their imported goods. They must submit CBAM declaration detailing the embedded emissions of their imports into the European European Commission platform. And they need to purchase CBAM certificates to cover the declared emissions. So in other words, the importer really are those who bears the financial costs. And finally, the European Union is responsible for collecting emissions declaration from EU importers, verifying reported carbon footprint, and taxing importer based on their declared emissions by requiring them to purchase CBAM certificates. So this is kind of the role play of actors, and we can see that it's a bit complex. As CBAM progressively rolls out, it's kind of crucial to understand where the financial risks are underlying in this process. So the cost of compliance is rising, and failing to anticipate these changes could significantly affect your bottom line. One of the most important shifts happening under CBAM is the gradual elimination of free allowances. This means that by 2034, EU importers will have to fully cover their specific embedded emissions through CBAM certificates without any subsidies or exemptions. CBAM certificate prices are closely linked to the EU ETS carbon price. And this price is projected to increase significantly over the next decade, so price of a ton of carbon. For industries like steel, for example, it can resonate with multiplication by 2 of the cost of importing 1 ton of hot strip steel, for example. So it's a bit huge. And while CBAM initially covers industries such as steel, cement, etc., we've seen that the regulation is expected to expand in the coming years, including ceramics, textiles, and plastics, and taking this into scope. So further broadening the compliance requirements for business operating in these sectors. So it's important to stay ahead if you are concerned by these sectors. Now, why is CBAM crucial to you? From what I could see in the conversation I had in the US, in the UK, it's really a pivotal shift in how businesses are operating in the European Union approach emissions and imports. So understanding its importance is key to mitigating risk and unlocking potential advantages. First key risk is fines and penalties. So starting 2026, non-compliance will result in severe financial penalties ranging from 10 to 50 euros per ton of unreported emissions. And in the effective phase, by 2026, it's going to be 100 euro per missing certificate. So there's a financial risk management that needs to come into place here. And then there are risks regarding reputation and competitiveness. I even had companies in the UK kind of wondering if they will continue doing business with Europe regarding this. So proactive in decarbonization strategy and trajectory is really a strategic decision to make today. Because companies that will embrace this shift will gain a competitive edge in a carbon-conscious marketplace. So we're so lucky to have today with us an illustration of, in a real business context, of those challenges. So I want to hear, Miroslav, can you elaborate on your CBAM's challenges in the context of Econia's activity in Europe?
Sure. So, if you have seen on the previous slides, CBAM is something we cannot ignore, even if we are just a supplier. So our products mainly done by MDF, wood, injection plastic. Sometimes the designs and the functions require that is out of steel. As we have 2 production sites, one in Italy, one in China, it's pretty clear that whenever we produce in China, in combination of use of steel, we need to do a CBAM calculation. There is no exception. It needs to be done. Actually, everything we produce in China have some kind of regulations. So we kind of used to it. We need to do EUDR regulations, REACH, and all the others. While we already set up quite pretty well for all the other regulations, CBAM came a little bit like late on our table, and we were a little bit surprised. So we had a little bit stressful time in the first quarter to submit all the data. Luckily, as Noemi already mentioned, we started a year ago already with carbon accounting in Greenly. So we had like a base where we could find basements and had a partner that we can contact for guidance and for help. I mean, without this, probably most of you know the feeling when you first time open the CBAM calculation sheet and you just think, oh my God, what do I do? So we tried like for 1 week to handle the CBAM calculation sheet, then we kind of not give up, but that we go back to Greenly and could make a smooth agreement that Greenly did for us the first CBAM calculation sheet. And while we were waiting for data, we were already preparing for the next quarter. Yeah. Because the resources we needed to spend in the first quarter were very big. We had a lot of issues like timing, etc., to handle the deadlines. It's very important that at some point you have kind of automatization in your process that you really can give your customers the data very fast and they are correct. Also, the good point to have a partner like Greenly for us is that they will look for us for the next regulations, for the next adaptations, because CBAM will evolve. It will be for sure, bigger and bigger as all the other regulations. And for us, it's very important to know, okay, even if we miss some regulation, we have someone that will come back to us and tell us, hey, are you up to date on this topic or not?
Thank you. Very interesting. I think a lot of companies here and in the one that are watching us have as well a global supply chain and suppliers from China, from other parts of the world. So it's great to have a sense of the pressure that you felt and the timeline as well.
And we also were kind of meeting our clients, which didn't have also a lot of more inside look than we. So then even more important for our clients that then can rely on us, that they will get from us the correct data and they can actually import the goods to the EU market. So at the end, if you really prepare everything, when you set up, it gives you some kind of market advantage because the clients know, okay, we can rely on Iconia, we can ask them for guidance, we can ask them for help. It is actually a big bonus.
Interesting. A real example of companies showing leadership here and illustrating that it's a real key differentiator and competitive advantage.
Thank you.
Of course. Should I go to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Okay. So on this one, I wanted to make a couple points on the complexity. Every company has its own situation and complexity, but I've kind of tried to centralize here the most common that I could come across. Because navigating CBAM is no small feat for businesses. Its complexity arises from challenges in three main areas. There's the CBAM preparation, the data management, and the reporting. So let's kind of break this down together. First, CBAM preparation is inherently complex. For many companies, identifying which products fall under CBAM compliance is unclear and time-consuming because it's really easy to say it's still aluminium and cement products, but a lot of products actually embed those components but are not necessarily coming into under the CBAM scope. The CBAM scope is really well defined by CN codes, but then again, a lot of companies don't really know the CN codes that they're shipping to Europe, so it's part of the complexity. On top of that, purchasing and financial teams often lack awareness on these regulations. I often get a really surprising reaction of people not aware of, not even aware of this regulation coming into force, kind of wondering if this is going to be postponed in some ways. It really here lack of awareness, and if that wasn't enough, the legislation is constantly evolving, making it hard to keep up with. That's something you mentioned, Miroslav. To have someone that can do intelligence on regulation is really important. Then let's talk about supplier data challenges. With evolving purchases and new suppliers, the compliance landscape is always kind of shifting, and retrieving accurate emissions data from multiple suppliers in multiple geographies, in Asia, in America, etc., is really overwhelming, and sometimes suppliers fail to provide the necessary reports, leaving data gaps. So this is one particular point that we are experiencing with our clients, and no worries, your CBAM local authority will take some actions to verify that you put on the right efforts to make sure to have the data from your suppliers. And looking at different criteria, then they will assess if the lack of data from your suppliers is coming from your lack of effort or from the actual supplier. And finally, there's the quarterly reporting aspect. That is a heavy lift. Preparing CBAM reports, even quarter, demands significant time and effort. So mistakes are common, undermining the accuracy of these reports as well. And delays or inaccuracy can lead to penalties and reputational damage or pressure from clients. And here, so this is kind of the complexity that I've seen, but I really want here Miroslav to give us an idea of what those challenges really look like in the real in real context.
So after the first week with our CBAM calculation sheet, we are thinking, okay, there must be something better. There must be something more easy to handle. And yeah, as mentioned, we already had the carbon accounting platform. So we are thinking, okay, it would be great if we can combine all the data, if we can implement it already in our carbon management system. That's where we go to Greenly, ask them, okay, how we can handle this. On one hand, we really play like two games at once. We were adjusting our processes, we were adjusting our platform, and while Greenly were doing the calculations. Meanwhile, we really set up our processes also internally that we have all the data already from the offer phase, that we really, on the beginning, even it's just a drawing or whatever, we already have the data we need. We can implement it in our accounting system. We can do the calculations, and from the 1 week where we actually could not do any single calculations, we are now approximately on 5 minutes for one CBAM calculation. So it really matters how you prepare, how your data are. If you don't have the data, you need to go to the suppliers or make assumptions. But the most important, really, you have the tools and you have the information from the beginning. Otherwise, you will lose a lot of time, a lot of resources at the end.
Thank you. And I just wanted to take a couple of questions here. And if you have any take on that as well, Miroslav, happy to have you jump in. We have a first one on the minimum of material where CBAM applies. If metal, it says 5% of the total product, and is the rest is not CBAM regulated. So it's, Stuart, thank you for your question. Maybe Miroslav, you had this kind of the same situation with your products, some that are embedding CBAM goods and other that didn't. And it's actually, the answer here is really to always refer yourself to the CN codes of the product that you are importing or exporting, depending on your situation. Miroslav, can you share maybe how you could find the CN codes of the product that were falling under the CBAM regulation?
Yeah, this is our logistic department, so I cannot tell you the details, but for each our product, we make a material composition in the beginning. So from the beginning, we know, okay, my product has 60% steel, 40% cardboard, and from the very beginning, we know I will need to do the CBAM regulation. But it's really for us, we give our logistic, our material composition, our logistic department give us the HS code, and then we know before we ship the goods, do we need the calculation or not.
Good point. Yes, and I think it's giving a bit of elements of answer as well to Karen Lemden questions here. How is the easiest way to understand CN codes? Well, to understand how they are produced, won't give any take on that, but definitely the logistic department is your go-to to understand the CN codes that you are shipping to Europe, if any, or if of that you are importing. Then we have in the 15 minutes remaining, I am very happy to present the solution that Greenly could design and develop to streamline reporting. So the thing is that CBAM compliance is not just about paying for emissions, it's really about managing a complex reporting process that involves gathering supplier data, ensuring accuracy, and submitting reports in the required formats. So it usually can take, as Miroslav said, a lot of time, weeks to understand even the big European templates, understand where you need to input information, and then when you come across specific embedded emissions, and you never computed your own scope 1 and 2, you have no idea what it looks like. You don't know what are the scopes of those emissions. So we kind of reduce this time to just a few hours with a unified platform that centralizes suppliers' ESG data, including CBAM relevant emissions, where compliance becomes scalable, basically. And so the first step to faster CBAM compliance is eliminating manual data entry. So our platform allows you to sync purchase data effortlessly by leveraging API integration, scheduled file uploads, as well, and automated data requests from your suppliers, so that your suppliers' emissions will automatically be populated into your reports. This is really the key and the heart of this tool is really enabling you to crash data and to make sure this is accurate. We are justifying the estimations if we do some, and we're justifying that we are under the 20% threshold. And if not, and if we are lacking data from suppliers, then we can justify the effort that we put in to get those data. One of the biggest bottlenecks of CBAM reporting is getting reliable emissions data from suppliers. So here, a platform helps you accelerate supplier data retrieval with tailored surveys and automated follow-ups, because we are aware that a lot of suppliers don't measure their scope 1 and 2 emissions. They have their core business to deal with, and some are reluctant to answer to questionnaires or to give some data about their emissions. So the idea here is to give them access to a questionnaire to assess their scope 1 and 2 emissions from their goods. So this way we ensure supplier autonomy with a dedicated space where they can upload data, track progress, and monitor quality. And we can improve response rates by simplifying the process and reducing back and forth communication with your supplier. The idea here is really to make the most of this platform and to make sure that we put in the effort to show the European Commission I did everything I could, really put in the effort and manage my compliance. And once the data is collected and validated, the next challenge is ensuring compliance-ready reporting. So our platform generates quarterly CBAM reports in XML formats that you can just drag and drop into the EU portal submission. And so they're running advanced quality check to flag inconsistencies before submission, so that you have an audit-ready export to ensure compliance with EU regulation as well as for audits. One of the, I think I wanted to kind of touch on as well, more specifically the supplier engagement, that is a real complexity for CBAM. It's important to note that European importer must demonstrate that they have made many reasonable efforts to collect all the required data. So your local CBAM authority for each country in Europe, CBAM is kind of enforced its own way. So for the local CBAM authority, they will evaluate the case based on the unsuccessful attempts to retrieve supplier data, the adequacy of these efforts considering your company's economic size, and basically how big you are in Europe, the total volume of CBAM goods that you import, and the supplier's internal capacity to measure and report actual emissions. These are the thing that your CBAM authority will be looking at to kind of assess if you did it right, and with this platform we make sure that you put in the effort. And so to ensure you meet CBAM requirements without adding a huge administrating burden, we are providing an automated supplier engagement system that streamlines data collection and tracking. So it engages suppliers instantly with launching automated data collection campaigns. There are automated follow-ups so that you don't have to worry about it. It's sending automatic reminders to suppliers with specifying deadlines and the fact that it's important to you and to your end customer that you and your supplier serving. And it's giving you access to real-time dashboard to track supplier response rates, data quality, and even if they ask you for anything. Your supplier will have a dedicated space in which they can upload their data and kind of monitor the data quality and be on every quarter upload their new data. This will be automatically populated into your own version of the platform. So it makes it as easy as possible for suppliers to comply, so that it really minimizes the risk of non-compliance on your end, while ensuring a fully auditable record of all data collection efforts. And the last point I wanted to make here is that the final reports can be tailored for your specific customers. So if with different volume that you are imported or exporting. So you just have to select your clients, and it's ready to send it specifically to him or to drag and drop into the EU portal for submission. So we have a couple of minutes left. Thank you for listening and for staying for this webinar. I have some final thoughts and conclusion from Miroslav, and then we can wrap it.
Okay, thank you. So for Iconia, we see that the CBAM is not just like a one day topic, it's an ongoing challenge. It's also a necessity for our business that we need to do, and we need to know how to do. For us, it's really added value when we have a partner that we can group up and we can find the best solution, not only for us, but also for our clients. And yeah, we need to really have a look on the CBAM regulation, also on the others, even if it's just a small part of the sustainability, because every regulation is evolving, not only CBAM, and we just need to comply to give our clients the best service and the best informations we can. So we will definitely stay on this topic. We will also improve for the next quarter again, and yeah, it's not done yet.
It's not done. It's just starting. Thank you so much for your input and very insightful experience with CBAM. I'm here having some time for questions. Don't hesitate to jump in to ask any questions to Miroslav or I. I'm seeing here a question on how do we follow up on embedded. So I think you are meaning specific embedded emissions and how we make sure that it's captured or recycled in the cradle to grave phase. So this question, I think we would need to follow up the two of us, but tracking specific embedded emissions through cradle to grave life cycle requires comprehensive carbon accounting approach with a life cycle assessment approach as well that we can do from raw material extraction to end of life disposal and recycling. But to my knowledge, this is not something that is required for CBAM. Actually, who is monitoring the CBAM calling regulatory body in Europe? Does IFRS allow to recording such valuation in the audited financial statement? So to your question, let me know if I understood it correctly. But I'm not particularly aware of the internal organization of the European Commission regarding CBAM and who will be assessing the reports and who will be assessing as well the penalties. So I don't want to say a mistake here. So we would have to kind of dip deeper to see if the IFRS allows to recording evaluation in audited financial statements. And I will be sharing the slides with everybody after that. So thank you so much for joining. I hope this was informative and that you could learn more about CBAM. To have a demo of our CBAM, please reach out to us. I'm going to send a link on the chat, and I'm happy to have a one-one to discuss your particular situation and show you in kind of real time how the tool looks like, and explain how we can help you. Charles, so your question, starting from 2026 and the feedback we get from clients is that they aren't incentivized to report on real values, given that they have to acquire CBAM certificate equivalents to only 3.5% of embedded emissions. Hence, the compliance costs are higher in the first years than in purchasing those certificates with the default. Yes, yeah. This is a really good point, and indeed, I think the transitioning phases as well, design and tailored to adjust the regulation regarding these I would say reaction from the markets, and this is a feedback that I get a lot as well from US or UK companies. So I think with evolving with the free allowances. Coverage evolving, this will be this will normally will be answered and tackled, but it's a real phenomenon that is going on, and I think today we cannot really estimate the real financial risks and the penalties before 2034. So I get that we are in kind of an interesting period of we are seeing how the supply chain is reacting, how people will be adjusting costs as well. So time will tell, but definitely something that I've come across too. And if I don't have any further questions, I think we can wrap up. Thank you so much, Miroslav, for joining us today. I hope everyone learned a lot. If you have any further questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here for that, so that we can have a bit more time. I know Green is hosting another webinar right after, so I don't want to have too much time here. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Miroslav.
Bye bye.
Bye.